Hello, and welcome to the SME Focus show powered by MTDCNC. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. On this week's show, as always, we aim to highlight aspects of UK manufacturing or topics of interest to SMEs. Therefore, my guest is Richard Fallon, CEO of the Technology Supply Chain, which is a membership group for manufacturing, technology and life science companies. It helps over 5,500 members to innovate and grow by connecting them to new opportunities, innovation, support, grants and funding. So, hi Richard, welcome to SME Focus.
Hello Mark, thanks very much for having me. How are you?
I'm good, and it's a pleasure for you to come on. You do the hard work. I'm just sitting here posing some questions. So it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
Great to be here. Thank you very much for the invite.
No problem. The little bit of work I do is read LinkedIn. So looking at your LinkedIn profile, it tells me you did a physics degree at Durham and you've got a PhD as well in physics from Aston University. So a bit of a curveball. Can I ask you where your love for physics came from and what path you originally had mapped out when you were making those education choices?
Sure. It's a little bit unusual. I've always been interested in how things work. And from a young age, I've always been kind of like, Mum said, you always asked, how does that work? How does this work? Why is the sky blue? All of that type of thing. And I found physics had the answer for lots of those things. So it's like, I like maths, I like physics, got into that, but I also liked English as well. And I like that type of thing. So my A levels were a bit odd because I did maths, physics, computing so far. So, usual. And then I did English language as well, which was really interesting. It was just something completely different to doing all of my kind of physics stuff. So I really wanted to kind of look at how things worked along like things. And I got very much into how stars were formed and all of that, astrophysics.
Okay.
So when I went to university, that was something I was really interested in. Unfortunately, I lost the interest in that because it just became a huge amount of mathematics, which wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. It was just hugely mathematical and not much else to it. So I got through my degree in physics. I liked some of it. I suppose it's like a lot of people in a degree. You like some parts of it, some parts you just kind of think, that's probably not really my thing. And then what happened was I finished my physics degree in Durham, went looking for a job, made lots of applications, got some job interviews. He said, we do say we take people with physics degrees, but we really mean electronic engineering. And you think that would have been useful had you told me 3 years earlier. So I decided to fix that error by going to do a master's at Nottingham University. So I did that in electronic engineering. I enjoyed it that much that I did my PhD in Aston in a subject called photonics. And so electronics, doing stuff with electrons, photonics, doing stuff with photons, particles of light. So I got to work on my main thing that was develop an optical fiber sense system that went into the mast of a £20 million yacht and went into the wings of RAF tornadoes as well. And it appeared on Tomorrow's World way back in 1999. If anybody on this is old enough to remember that.
Maybe you should find me a link, and I'll include a link in the show details so people can look back at Tomorrow's World. I think there's quite a craze now on LinkedIn, on YouTube, to watch very old Tomorrow's Worlds and get all reflective.
I absolutely. I will send you a link, and it is Jon Snow interviewing a colleague and a very good friend of mine, Lorna Everell. So yeah, and you'll find out more about that on that.
Brilliant. So your LinkedIn profile also says then that after all of this education and all of this maths and trying to find out what colour the sky was, you decided to get a job as a business analyst at British Airways, which I guess continues the sky theme, and then npower, which maybe is less blue sky, more cables, I don't know. So if I can take you back, tell me a little bit about those heady years of 98 to 2004 when you were a business analyst.
Okay, so by the way, the sky is blue because of Rayleigh scattering. So the particles in the atmosphere scatter blue light more than do any other color. So if anybody asks you, you now know the answer. So what happened was I really enjoyed my PhD. I had a great 3 years, but I worked in an underground lab on my own, seeing either daylight or people. And I like both of those things. And just when I started thinking socks and sandals sounds comfortable and fashionable, it kind of occurred to me I probably need to get out a little bit more often than I was. So one of the things I really did enjoy doing during my PhD was traveling. So a logical thing was to go to work for British Airways, which was great because a business analyst role I really enjoyed because there's a logical analytical side to it and there's the side dealing with people, which is far harder than the analytical logical side, more challenging, and therefore I found that more rewarding. So I had a great 4 years down there. I worked with cabin crew, flight crew, then worked with revenue management, and it was great. You kind of like help people put together, what does the business need from a system? Right, work the IT department, can we deliver that? And then the hardest challenge was always getting the people to adopt the new system that they had actually kind of said, well, we want it to do that. So that was a lot of fun. But after 4 years, I bought a house with a friend of mine, and he actually got married to another friend of mine. They met through me, and he said, yeah, I'm moving out. So I kind of thought, well, I can't really afford my own place down here. So I decided I'll move back to Birmingham, much cheaper up north. And there was a job with Empower just down the road as a senior business analyst. So that worked out really well. So I did 2 years for them. And again, that was doing the same things, but obviously in different ways, and supporting people with billing and supporting people monitoring things and all that. So it was an enjoyable period. And I really developed a skill set of being able to deal with people. I became an international association qualified facilitator, became an IF facilitator. So I learned an awful lot of skills from that as well, which was really good.
Okay. And did that lead to a smooth transition in you founding your first business, which was out of hours, or was it in a reaction to that? What prompted you to found the business, and tell us a little bit more about that?
That's a really good question. So what I did enjoy a lot of was delivering training, because obviously I facilitated sessions, which was really good. And I started delivering a lot of training sessions. Now I really enjoyed that. And what I'd learned from working with other companies was a lot of SMEs and small businesses, they wanted some support with training. They wanted help with developing these skills. They wanted help with facilitation. And the reason why I called the company Out of Hours was we did stuff of an evening and a weekend, as well as during a weekday. So the whole idea was there's lots of people, you've not got the time, you're at work, you're running your plant, you're running whatever it is. And sometimes it's easier to say, well, I'll come out on a Thursday evening for a couple of hours, and I'll learn a new skill. I'll find out about something new. So that was how that kind of came about. So obviously the skills I got from that moved into Out of Hours really well. I still did quite a bit of consulting. We worked with kind of wide range of people, from like DHL XL, Door Cycles we did some work with. We worked with a few solicitors. There was a real kind of like mix of consultants and everything. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of good fun.
So in every episode, I try and find a musical reference, and I could say that that's to really help people lock on to a key point in time. Or I could be more honest and say sometimes it's just to put an earworm in their head to annoy them for the rest of the day. The point of time I've picked for yourself is February 2014. So music-wise, it was the single at number one was Everybody Hurts, which was a fundraiser after the earthquake in Haiti. Or more importantly, it was when you founded The Marketing Engineer. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? It's not necessarily serving manufacturing, but tell us about it, and maybe try and draw some tenuous links to manufacturing, if you can, please.
Sure. So all of this will loop back to manufacturing. You'll find out all this story will loop back on itself. Sure. So what happened was, with Out of Hours, people more and more said, we love what you're doing. We like this, but we just need help with marketing. It's kind of, you've had the credit crunch, times have got tough, all of that type of thing. Can you help? And I kind of like thought, what's my name should be? And I went through this huge branding exercise, and then it became obvious that I'm an engineer who does marketing. So the marketing engineer was obvious, but I had to go through quite a lot of work to get to what should have been the obvious answer. And what I did was help companies who had something complex to explain and help them to develop their strategy, the copywriting, and the content. So I worked a lot with consultants. I did a lot with technical people, but I did a lot with accountants and solicitors as well, because again, they're technical areas.
Okay.
So that was how that came about, and I had a good time doing that. I explored various places, and I got to see again a lot of different businesses that I worked with and things like that. We'll find out when it's about the technology supply chain how that looped back. Just remember the technical bit.
Okay. So strangely enough, by the powers of having pre-planned some questions, we now get on to the core topic of today, and your role as CEO of the technology supply chain. So you founded that in 2019. I think that's obviously where you're best known, certainly within this audience of watching this show. So can I ask you to go back in time and tell us what prompted you to found the business, and maybe see how honest you are. What were your initial aims and how have they changed over the past 6.5 years? How have things
Really good.
developed?
Really good question, Mark. Really good question. So, how this all came about was I helped a lot of people as the marketing engineer. And what I did during that is I actually developed it's an MVQ level 4 course in marketing, short course marketing businesses with the University College Birmingham. And I started delivering that in 2010, actually. And it ran every Friday morning from 9 till 12. And that went down really well, 6 weeks. And people went, this was great. Thanks very much. She's credited and all of that. And one of the people who came along was a guy called Tim Miller, brilliant bloke, who worked for a telecoms company at the time. But then he went on to work with EBRI, the European Bioenergy Research Institute at Aston University. And he asked me at the time to say, could you help me kind of promote what we're doing and this support we got for businesses, and that was manufacturing and all that. So I said, of course we can. And then that went ahead, and then not long after that, it'd be a good few years after that, my old PhD group had a reunion. This is where everything loops back around, and they said to me, the professor there said, I've got loads of support for manufacturing, engineering and technology companies. We've got absolutely loads of support. Can you please help engage with these companies? Because we use 3 marketing agencies and we've not really got the results we want, but we know you've worked with EBRI and this seems to work. So can you help? And I said, sure. And that was kind of where it started from. Initially, it started off as called a technology network. And that was a thing that we just ran with Aston. And then it looked like what happened is, having run that, we found out there's loads of support out there. There's absolutely loads, and still is, loads of grants, loads of innovation support for manufacturing, engineering, technology, and life sciences companies. There is lots of it there. To give you an idea, Aston University alone had 22 projects at the time. The thing is, these things aren't particularly well linked together, and just because you find one doesn't mean you get connected to another. So this kind of became obvious, there was a real gap there to say, well, there's lots of help out there. If you can help people join it up and find it all, they will kind of go across that innovation bridge, because lots of people start with a great idea and you've got the other side where you want to get to, where you got a product that you're marketing and selling. The thing is if you just start this, you only get this far and you end up with a half-built bridge. It's just, as you know, wasted time, wasted resources, because it's half-built bridge is no use to anybody. So it's a way of we could put together all the steps. So it's like, right, you could go here, use this grant for this, do this. You might have to fund this little bit at the end, but you made it much easier for somebody to get where they wanted to be, rather than just getting a 12 days worth of support, which got the idea going.
Okay, so you sort of described the inception of it and how it's developed and stuff. If you were, let's say, stuck in a slow-going lift in a very tall building in Dubai, how would you quickly describe this technology supply chain to somebody who in manufacturing, so somebody who's aware of all the problems but not who you are and what you offer?
Okay, brilliant. Really good question, Mark. So the technology supply chain is a membership organization for manufacturing, technology and life sciences companies, and we help them to innovate and grow. And we do this by connecting them with the new opportunities, innovation supports, grants and funding that is available to them. We do this through one-to-one support, events, conferences, workshops and funded programs.
Brilliant. I was half tempted to make the ding noise of the lift arriving, but I resisted slightly. My professionalism stopped me. However, throwing my professionalism to the wind, I'm going to pretend to be a little bit of a Michael Parkinson and ask you about the thing that you're here to plug, but that's not fair because I asked you on now and only afterwards realised the timing. But you're famous for the Innovation Awards, and on Monday was the launch for the 2026 Innovation Awards. So perfect timing. I'm sure it's fresh in your memory. Can I ask you to tell us a little bit about the Innovation Awards and let's start with your hopes for 2026.
Okay, so hopefully 2026 will be Last year was our biggest year yet, so obviously our hope is to outdo that again. We're looking for some amazing people. We've had them year in, year out. Judges are always amazed by what we get. The Innovation Awards we founded in 2021, and how that came about was with the technology supply chain. We kind of realized that the West Midlands, we're great at innovating. We're just not outgoing to say, look at all the amazing stuff we do. That just isn't in our DNA to go out and do a look at what's happening. So we decided to set up the Innovation Awards as a way of recognizing, rewarding, and celebrating those companies, individuals, and organizations dedicated to innovation. And it was a bit different because we did manufacturing, engineering, but we also did technology, life sciences. Last year we had defense, construction, creative industries. So we got a range of things. Then we get male, female, young, innovative there. But the other thing we do, which is a bit different, is we do innovation champions. So that's like universities that champion innovation, help other people to innovate. And then we do innovation thought leaders who kind of give people the money and the space to innovate, because we realize that innovation is a team activity and there's more than one person involved. And we put the awards together for that. And the really nice thing, Mark, was people came the first year, and there's a lot of people go to a lot of awards, and they said, this is really odd, I don't know anybody here, because we had such a diverse group of people that it's really interesting. It's a great way to meet new people, all of that. So this year we want to see, we do the same each year. There's always 5 finalists in a category. You always get to go to a judging interview, independent panel of 3 judges. We got like Make UK sit on that, the MOD sit on it. We got various people, and they mark you out of 5, and whoever gets the highest is the winner, and the second highest is highly commended. So everybody knows what the questions are. Everybody knows how they get marked. So we make it as transparent as we possibly can, because we all come across awards where I've had this, I'm sure you have, Mark, saying, if you buy a table, you'll get this award, or in a lot of cases, we have an award for you. Send us a couple of £100 and we'll send you the award, which is even worse. Do you know what I mean? It just seems to be that there are some like that. There's not a huge number, but it does muddy the things for everybody else.
And can you give some examples of past winners? What things have stuck out in your mind over the past few years?
So one of our past winners was 2024. Great guy called Mitch Barnes, and his company is called Rise 3D, and he won Engineering Innovator of the Year. I think he was all of 28 at the time. He built the business out of his mum's garage to £2 million, and he was basically manufacturing 3D printers. The guy's, really smart, doing some really good stuff, and he went on to win the King's Award for innovation. Do you know what I mean? So he's doing some really good stuff. He's working with some very big names. He's very passionate about changing the way things are done, and the way he does 3D printers is different to everybody else. So he's a real standout. We also have Brandauer, who most people are probably familiar with. Rowan and his team, they're doing some amazing work. He won the year before, and again he won the Queen's Award for Innovation, as it was at the time. So we do have some great people. Advanced Innovative Engineering, they did really well. We got Incredible Husk, who are doing some amazing stuff with sustainability. I love them. Again, highly commended this year. Have you come across Nourished, Mark?
No, I haven't.
So that's run by she was Female Innovator of the Year this year for us, a lady called Melissa Snova. And what they do is they 3D print gummies, vitamin gummies. So you go on, you tell it about what your lifestyle is, all that, what you're trying to achieve, and they develop a thing and they 3D print vitamin gummies and they send them to you. And they're now in, I've noticed you get them in Holland and Barrett now and everything. So that's really expanded. Interesting thing, and I'm just going to point this out, Mark, is Melissa came to speak at one of our conferences, and I said, well, what was your secret to success? Now, Melissa's originally from Baltimore, and she moved to the UK, and she said, the secret to my success is the West Midlands. And I said, well, why is that? She said, well, you've got everything. I looked around, Oxford, Cambridge, all this. Said, look, you got the workforce, you've got housing's a lot cheaper, you've got world-class universities, you've got transport links. This is brilliant. So it was great to see that there was a thing going, you've got everything I need.
Well, perhaps it takes an outsider to spot the opportunities.
I think sometimes it does. It's an interesting one. We work with a lot of companies where they might have a base in Oxford and Cambridge to be their universities. If they get young people, though, as a lot of people do, people in their 30s, they can't afford houses in there, and there's not an awful lot going on in Cambridge, and they want to be somewhere, a big city where they can afford to live, and Birmingham ticks those boxes.
Brilliant. Okay. I don't know, it's probably not a change of subject from innovation, it's probably an adjacent subject. But if we move across and pick technology, so to speak, there's a lot of attention about technology being used to reduce energy, waste reduction, time saving, and therefore, obviously, also sometimes reducing the number of staff that are required in a business. In your position as business analyst, also as an innovation consultant, where would you suggest manufacturers look, and what do they need to capture when they're thinking about using technology to save them cost?
Really good question, Mark. So I'd always say look for the quick wins. Start with something small. Don't start too big. The biggest thing you need to do, and I learned this early on, is get everybody on board, people on board. So I've never worked on a project with anybody where it was deliberately to get rid of existing people. It's never been that way. You never get anybody on board that way either. So there's a thing that if you're looking at headcount wise, often what you do is you say to people, because this is true, this is what you're doing, you're usually automating the boring parts of their job to free them up to other more value added productive things that add more value. So I'd say to anybody, it's really important you bring your team on board before you start this, because otherwise it gets this idea of they're looking to automate. Arthur's going to lose jobs, all of that, and everything clamps down. So getting your team on board into that mindset that this is just making us more efficient, making us more productive, and this is to help you do more interesting things so you enjoy coming to work more. And then people come on board. And then the next thing to do is you always map out what you currently have and currently do. Because I've seen people go very wrong by saying, let's start with some blue sky thinking. If you do, because you kind of think, well, I don't want to be bounded by what we currently do. The problem is, inevitably, you forget some of the crucial things and crucial steps that are done. So always start by mapping out what you do and then work on improving that. And again, this brings people on board because people love it. If you sit down and say, well, tell me exactly how do you do this? What do you do? What is your day to day? And again, you're looking interesting people, and people get the fact that this isn't a threat. They're not going to lose their jobs, but they want to be part of it. So, right, how do I move forward? Because you've got to remember you've got to get their input. They've got to be bought in, because whenever you put out, whether it's a new piece of machinery or a new piece of software, a new system, whatever it is, those people are going to need to start using it. So you need them bought in.
Okay. With change, whether it's changing the process or whether it's investing in automation, obviously funding is a key issue, particularly so, let's say, for SMEs. And I think that's of relevance to sort of your organisation. So have you got some thoughts, recommendations? This audience is predominantly SME focused. So what are your thoughts regarding funding for SMEs?
So it's something we are always kind of campaigning for, is to get more support. So we're working with Crow UK, and one of the things we've been pushing for with them is to have a thing where you could get grants that gave you 10% of what you wanted to invest in, so then you could use asset finance. So the whole idea was to try and get it, because there's like 10, 20,000 pounds. There are pots of money out there, but it was kind of like, how do you get them? Because if you want to spend 800 grand on a piece of automation, which isn't that, huge investment, you want 80k, because when you get that, you get the asset finance, you can stretch your payments out. So we're very much campaigning around that. One of the big things we've been talking to various people about is how do we reduce the administration costs that go into managing a grant, because there's an awful lot of money there, but obviously there is an admin cost. Is how do you kind of reduce that, make sure the money's still appropriately spent and well spent, and do it in a way that works out for everybody. Now, we know there's lots of pots of money we can direct people, but we're very keen to see it where it's not a postcode lottery. So if you're in the Black Country, you get same as somebody in Birmingham, same as somebody in Bristol, same as somebody in Edinburgh. Do you know what I mean? It's like try and keep it the same. Because, like, for example, you've got in Birmingham and Shropshire, you could get up to £100,000 in match funded investment. I think the highest you could get in the Black Country is 25,000. And it's like, how do we kind of standardize that? But we're really keen to help companies get this investment in, so they can actually kind of get the asset finance or whatever it is to make those steps, because we realize that it's very hard. And I think this is the problem with a lot of companies want to invest, but finding that money to get it going and they know over it will pay back. The other thing we work with is trying to work with people, trying to make it more affordable. Because I said to a lot of people, I said, look, you need a payback time that's 5 years or less, not something. Because I spoke to somebody and he said, a manufacturer, and he spoke to an automation company and said, let me guess, the payback time was 25 years. He said, yeah, it was about that. I said, it just doesn't really work. It's just kind of going, what can you give me that's small and efficient to deliver values now so I can move forward on? The other part is what we like doing is when it's like you've got the Made Smart program, for example. Our friends at WMG will help you. You can go in there, you can try different pieces of kit, so you can work out what is right for you. Because what we've had from a lot of our manufacturing members is conversation around going, I want help buying piece of kit. Because the last thing I want to do is find A, it either doesn't work, or B, because of the energy efficiency of it, or something like this, in 5 years, you're going to have to replace it. Do you know what I mean? So there's a real thing on going, I could do with a steer. And it's true. If you're investing like a million quid, you're going to make sure you're getting the right thing for your money, rather than finding out 5 years later it's obsolete, or you need to replace it because of scope 3 reporting and it's given whatever it might be.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Final question till we get to the sort of the typical wrap-up ones. Really, it's a bit of a tangent. You mentioned at the very beginning that you were a strange engineer because you'd liked English as a subject, and you've also mentioned outside of this interview that you enjoy writing in your spare time. So, can you tell me a little bit more about that? What sort of things you like to write, and what are you working on at the moment?
Sure, I've always enjoyed writing. I did it when I was doing my English language. I was doing creative writing course in my spare time at the local college. Really enjoyed that. One thing I've done is whenever I've left an employer, whenever I've ever left a thing, I've always left a bit of a humorous story for them. I think the Aston one was about 40 pages long, and it was some type of pastiche on the famous five called the Photonics 5 Go Clinically Insane, which kind of gives you an idea of, and it'll have characters from that in this famous 5 story, and then Empower got one, BA got one. So I've always enjoyed writing, but at the moment I'm working on a radio. It's a radio script for a sitcom, and it is called Manners and Misdemeanors, and it's an Edwardian comedy of manners with Alexander Arthur Adams and Bertie Benjamin Booth, and it's about some of the things they kind of go through. So it's a little bit of how should I put this? It's like kind of like Oscar Wilde meets Carry On Films meets a bit of slapstick. So it's I really enjoy it. I do really enjoy writing. So it's something I find it very relaxing and a lot of fun.
And are they? Do you write things that you share? Whether I don't know. Do you write particularly long Christmas cards? Do you share any things that you write, or is it just something that's for yourself?
So I've been published a few times in local newspapers, things like that. With what I write, obviously, when I leave a company, I'd always share it with them. With the scripts, I'll put this one in for a competition called the Sitcom Mission, where it kind of gets read out. So I do actually put these out there to get some feedback and all of that type of thing. So yes, with the idea, and I like the idea. I deliberately wrote for radio because it means that it's a lot cheaper to produce, and unfortunately, I have a brother and sister-in-law who are both actors, and getting some people together to record something as a podcast is probably something we could do as well, even if it doesn't go quite so well with this competition. Hopefully, that will work out.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to wrap up with the questions I ask every guest, and we'll kick off with people will typically be watching this podcast come out at the weekend. So can I ask what sort of topic you would be more typically talking to people about at the weekend? If you're at a party, if you're talking to somebody in the kitchen or the pub, what do you normally talk about when you're not sat at a computer desk talking on a computer monitor?
Excellent question. I mean, often it's like holidays, what's going on, bit of films and all that. But the biggest thing I would talk about, somebody I met on the train the other day, and we had a conversation for about 20 minutes. Inevitably tends to be politics, because I just find that really interesting. I work, our sister company, Walk Through Walls public affairs consultancy, but I've always had a strong interest in politics, what's kind of going on. And obviously that has a really big impact. Politics has it's massively impacted manufacturing, but it impacts everybody in their daily lives. And it's always a fascinating subject to have a chat and see what people's opinions are and what they think of things. So inevitably kind of goes kind of in that direction. And again, this is why we try and do a bit of lobbying and influence some of these things of getting, as I was talking about earlier, grants and breaks and things like that for businesses.
Okay. Perhaps a harder question is, and a very traditional one for the show, which is, this is a question that's stolen from Chris. What have you got planned, or what do you hope to achieve in the next 12 months? And that can be work related, personal, whatever you fancy. What are your targets? What are your dreams for the next 12 months?
Really good question. Okay. Let me start with the work and then I'll do the personal. So work-wise, we are delivering a conference over the summer, which is going to be on defence procurement, aimed at manufacturing technology companies in the West Midlands, which we're doing with the MOD, because a lot of them are, because the region is kind of underrepresented in that sector. So it's to let people know what the opportunities are. So we're going to be working heavily with members to help them pivot and maybe supply into that. We see AI is going to be a massive thing. We're doing it currently. We've got an AI program for manufacturers, which is funded by the West Midlands Combined Authority, and we're doing with Aston University. We had our first workshop last Monday, actually, and there's one coming up this Wednesday on the 10th of February. So if anybody's listening wants to come, that's going to be at Be Swift. But I think those two themes are going to be big for us this year. It's helping manufacturing technology, bring them together. How can we help people pivot into defense or life sciences? We do a lot with that. We've got Life Sciences Week, have another successful one of them. And then using AI technology to overcome a lot of the barriers around how to reduce costs, minimize waste, how to get. A lot of companies who speak to, a lot of our members struggle just to get employees in. So it's like, sometimes I need to reduce numbers because I can't even fill the numbers I do have. Yeah. So sometimes you've got to fill that. So that's going to be a big target work-wise, bring more members in, but it really is just growing our network and growing those connections to help people more. So that's a big thing for that. Personally, I'd love to get on the sitcom mission and get like a sitcom kind of like recorded at least this year, or a little. They only do 15 minutes. 15 minutes is do something around that. So that would be really good. So those are kind of like my goals for this year.
Excellent. How do people go about finding out more about the technology supply chain? How do they find out more about your book? Or how would they follow you or contact you?
Okay, so find out about what I'm working on creatively. I'll probably let people know if I get through to this sitcom mission. I'll let them know on LinkedIn. So if they want to find me on LinkedIn, I think I'm the first thing if you put Richard Fallon in, and you can. I unfortunately have a very memorable face for all the wrong reasons. I'm sure you can find me on LinkedIn. But if you go to technologysupplychain.co.uk, you'll find out all about what we're doing. The big thing I ask people to do is you can sign up as a digital member for free. It doesn't cost you anything. And from that, you'll get a weekly newsletter, which will tell you exactly what we're up to, what's going on. And it'll tell you about all these programs, all this support, all the grants that are going on. So that would be definitely the best way to do it. But find me, Richard Fallon on LinkedIn and technologysupplychain.co.uk. And if you're interested in Innovation Awards, that's innovation-awards.co.uk. And nominations are open until the end of March. So what we find, Mark, it's interesting, about 50% of people nominate themselves and 50% of people nominate other people. So if you don't want to nominate yourself, you're perfectly entitled to nominate somebody else. All you need to do is fill in your details, their details, and up to and no more than 100 words on why you've nominated them. And then we take it from there. We make it so simple for people to nominate themselves. We're not like somebody who wants to kind of make it so it's a long application form, all of that. And what happens if you do get, there's some voting, but if you get through, shortlisted, you get invited to a 15-minute interview.
Brilliant.
So that's it. You only have to do the work if you've got through already.
Sounds good. Before I sign off and say thanks, can I ask you, do you have a final sentence, question, observation, or thought? What would you like to sign off the episode by saying?
I think I'd like to say there are solutions to everything. Whatever you're coming across, you can look out there. There are amazing people out there. I'm very lucky. I work with some of the most awesome people, including Mark here. So there's a thing of, if you ask, we can definitely help so that we can connect you with the right thing, whether it's a university, a new idea, a new opportunity. So you can always reach your goals. It's just, you want to pick your right friends, and we can definitely help you find the right people to move you forward.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that, Richard. And particularly, must be one of the most positive episodes we've had, because you always coming up with solutions.
Thanks very much. Great speech, Mark.
I will quickly wrap up by saying the usual words, that if you'd like to get in touch with the show with a comment, a suggestion, and in particular if you'd like to appear in a future episode, please email us at inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead, or Joe Reynolds. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. From me, Mark Weymouth at Plus Automation. Cheers. Have fun.